Hi everybody, Ben Mays here with Williams Soaring Center. Just this last weekend we finished up our winter webinar series. I posted a link to it on the Williams Today page, but I'd like to share with you what went on. We had some great discussion, about an hour and a half long video going over planning for success and weeding through the aftermath. I talked a lot about all of the elements it takes to set up for your day. Went over weather forecasting a little bit, in-flight decision-making, instrument usage, and kind of just theories and thoughts and questions you should be asking yourself throughout a flight. We've also posted a number of previous webinars from last year, and I'll be continuing this video series over the next month, posting some of our other speakers. People like Pete Alexander, Kempton Azuno, who talked about big wave flying, convergence flying, and reading the sky. So I hope you enjoy this video. If you do, like and subscribe.
Planning for success and working through the aftermath. First off, like I said before, my name is Ben Mays. For those who don't know me, I am the Chief Flight Instructor at Williams Soaring Center. I've been a CFIG for 4 years. About 1,500 hours instruction, 4,000-ish glider flights. I'm also a private pilot, single engine land, multi-engine land with 600-ish hours, and majority of that's towing. In our Pawnees here at Williams is 1,500 plus tows. I spent a lot of time crewing at competitions for Pete Alexander, Ray Gimme. I've crewed all over all over the states, from Montague, Minden, down to Hobbs, New Mexico, and all the way out to Florida at national and regional contests. And then I've crewed at the world level for Pete in Poland in the World Soaring Championship in 2014. And I've also competed at the regional level back in Perry, and just this year last year, I guess, competed at the 20-meter two place, where we got a national day win and flown in the 32 with Dennis Lenikin. So with all that background, I kind of, over the last 3 years, I've kind of developed this been trying to develop the cross-country program more and more at Williams to help cater new individuals coming into the sport and help people grow rapidly through the sport. Kind of put together these webinar series, and would like to kind of go through today, this evening. What we'd like to talk about are some of the it's kind of the flow of the presentation, the talk. Like I said, if people have questions or want to interject through, we can add or change throughout. But we're going to start out by talking about kind of pre-flight self-checks, meaning, going through and understanding, trying to figure out, are we ready to fly, and are we ready to meet the goals on a personal level? Is our ship ready? And are we setting ourselves up for success when we come out to the glider port? We're going to go through weather in the day. We'll go through a little bit of kind of simplified forecasting over the last couple of webinars. Like Kempton's talked about his big long range forecasting and things, but I'm just going to pull out my simplistic view of the day and really kind of break down what's the difference between forecasted days and what the day's doing. Setting realistic goals for the day. Once we have our weather and we're ready to fly, do we have a goal? Are we flying with a goal, and is that goal realistic? Then we'll kind of break down a couple of the things that couple questions we have to answer during our in-flight decision making. As we're going through that, when and how to use our instruments is super important. We'll spend a fair amount of time on that topic. Then work through the post-flight analysis and some of how we can really work to optimize there. And then we'll talk about lessons learned afterwards. This picture in the bottom, this is a picture from the Sailplane Grand Prix in 2017? 2016. That's at Seminole Lake, Florida, just outside of Claremont. And beautiful cloud-covered sky there. So let's start with pre-flight self-checks. First off, am I ready for the day? When we come out to the glider port, I think it's really important. We've had, especially in this early season, am I ready to fly? Am I ready for the day? And am I ready for everything the day might have in store for me? Right. Everyone comes out with differing levels of experience. And when we see that in the flying, we have people flying here at Williams that are brand new, recently soloed, all the way up to, well experienced, well accomplished, national and world level pilots. But at the end, I've seen each and every one along the spectrum goof up, and usually that goof we can come back to and break the link somewhere pretty early in the day. Being tired of right off the get-go locking the keys in the car. Maybe it was a long week, or they just traveled up early. So taking that, the FAA has all sorts of acronyms between I'm safe and PAVE and all sorts of ways to assess yourself. But just taking a good look before you even get out to the airport or start rigging and go, what am I in a good place to fly today? Do I have everything I need to fly? Did we bring the batteries? Did we not bring the batteries? Did we forget anything? Are we fumbling around and having a hard start to the day because I forgot something? Usually if you are, doesn't mean we can't fly, but just think about those things and catch what's going on. Because usually the people who are fumbling around or having some difficulty at the beginning of the day usually struggle throughout the whole day. As Pete calls it, when you're flying in the sky, you have a flow. And if you can keep the story going, that story really starts on the ground. The other big question that a lot of people you have to take a good self-check on is, do I have the ability, and the one below that is, do I have the proficiency to do what needs to be done today? What kind of day am I getting into? We'll get into forecasting here in a second, but having a really good understanding of what is possibly going to need to happen today to accomplish our flight. There's a lot of days. There's a lot of really, really good soaring days in the spring, especially. You look at today, for example. Today we'll pull up the forecast. They look like it'd be a decent soaring day. It look like there's some wave going on. It's gusting to 55 on the ground. We had a gust at 55 miles an hour here at 11:45. Is the soaring great? Absolutely. Do I have what it takes to get off the ground? No. Mostly because I don't have a tow plane and we're not going to open the doors for one. But I'm not going to take that risk. On Monday's looking like a really good day. But if you look at the forecast, and we will here in a minute, that towards the end of the day, they're calling for 35, 40 mile an hour crosswinds. So yes, there's going to be a good 2-3 hour window where the soaring is going to be really, really good. But do I have the skill and or proficiency to do what needs to be done to get the glider safely on and off the ground? And it's not so much the skill. Maybe I've done that before. Maybe I've done it many times, but when's the last time I did it? And how proficient am I right now to go do that in the glider I'm flying? Is it a new glider? What's going on there? And then lastly, in the pre-flight check is, before you take off, you really want to have a really honest, take an honest check and go, what am I willing to do today? Right? Are we really trying to push hard and go make an epic long flight? Or am I just trying to go up and have fun? But at the end of the day, what am I willing to do? Am I going to keep it in within glide of Williams? Am I willing to, every time we take off, we go cross country soaring, we run the risk of landing out. But where am I willing to put it? It's early season. I'm not willing to land anywhere that's not a hard paved runway. I was talking to Pete this morning about it, and we said, Pete said, for the first 10 soaring flights, I don't want to be anywhere that's not pavement, which means we have to leave a lot more out on the table to make it out to one of these county airports out here. Maybe I'm willing to land at Willows, maybe even Cooks, even though it's not pavement, is a pretty easy one. But Corning, Red Bluff, I'm only going to hit one of those. I'm not going to put it in Montgomery. I'm not going to put it in Indian Ranch. Because it's early season. I don't know if that's been grazed. I haven't taken a good look at it. I don't know what's going on right now. So I'm not going to go push it. And what's my proficiency level? Have I really done enough flying early season that I'm going to go execute a nice off-field landing? So I think going through and having that self-check and putting in that little guideline of what am I willing to do is super, super important. Do anyone have any questions on any of those areas, those topics? No?
Nothing coming in there, Ben.
All right.
Everybody's in
or sleeping. Sleeping works too.
Hey, Ben, this is Russ.
Yes, Russ.
Yeah, I can't find where I can pose a question, so I'll just do it verbally.
Yeah.
I went on a road trip to, a couple of years ago to these fields like Montgomery, Indian Ranch, even Antelope Valley. Locked gates, you can't see them. How do you determine what condition they're in?
So yeah, mostly. So when I'm making those determinations, those calls, most of the time it's still an assessment, like on tow as I'm flying overhead. I'm trying to look. We're not going to get a real good look at the field. And unfortunately for a lot of these fields and a lot of the database, and I know on the forum, there's been a ton of database talking lately about when's the last time anything was updated, when was the last time anything was seen. Most of what that comes into for my own sake is when I'm looking down, when I'm on tow and I'm looking down at Indian Ranch, I'm looking for cows. Are there cows on the runway? When I'm looking at antelope, are there cows on the runway? And antelope, especially, there are more than ever. For cooks, are there hay bales or farm equipment out there? In Montgomery, I flew over the other day and it looked pretty nice. You could actually really see the strip in there. But as far as actually getting down to the level and going, how low is the grass and some of those things, we don't do it all that often, but we could, schedule an aerial tour and go fly everything in the 182, or something here at Williams with, myself or Nick or someone. It doesn't happen. It doesn't go on that often. So most of the time, unfortunately, it's just intel from the standpoint of, wait until someone lands there and we go, hey, someone landed at the Bear Valley, the Bear Valley driveway, and it was good. I know we've had a lot of discussion in the last couple of weeks about all the ones down south about gold mines and down towards Berryessa and going, hey, are any of those still good? It is all private property. So there's not really any good answers to any of those other than, theoretically we can go take a flight, go take a low level intel flight and go buzz around in a power plane.
So to add to that, Ben,
Mm-hmm.
The other thing, Russ, is that things change throughout the year. And what's good today might not be good tomorrow. But you can bet most of these strips, Cooks, Antelope, Indian, Montgomery, Diamond, Elk, I mean, you can look at them as you go by to see if it's a worthy thing to do. And that's, what Ben said is what I do on tow every time. Look at, see how things look. If not, most of these places have alternative fields around as long as you don't wait too late. So I don't really worry about it, but I definitely look at those places as I go by. I went by Montgomery last weekend. And it was fine. My guess is the new Elk that's got pavement on it is fine. Willows is fine. So, with the type of flying we're doing, I don't think it's a big deal. And I think that if you do get yourself in a situation where, oops, you don't like that because of horses or whatever, you can land very short or you can go find a field nearby. Most of us don't wait till we get to 1,000 feet to decide what to do. November 9 is asking about, are the telephone numbers of the owners available? There probably are if we call the sheriff. Otherwise, I really don't think we want to call them and say, hey, we want to come look at your airport. I know Antelope's totally cool with it. Cooks is too. Indian so-so due to previous stupid pilot bullshit. And Montgomery's good too. So I don't think it's a big problem. But, you know, if you're worried, when I first started flying at Williams, I think Kenny took me out in a Super Cub and we flew around for a couple hours to look around. And with the gliders we have these days, you can pretty much make the good fields and or strips. And early in the season, I'm fine with Montgomery, Cooks, Antelope, Indian maybe. The place at whatchamacallit, the bottom of Bear Valley, I tend to make sure I can always get to Antelope.
The Bear Valley Turnpoint, you mean?
Yeah, the Bear Valley strip thing. Because the thing is that if you fall off the top, you can probably, if you're careful, still get to Antelope. And I've got myself really low in there before and saved enough altitude to get to Antelope at 1,500. That's my approach.
What's happening with Indian Valley now?
Nothing. It just, unfortunately, a previous glider pilot let all the cattle out or the horses or whatever. It's still there. It was fine when I looked at it last weekend. It just, they let them out and they're kind of pissed at us.
Yeah, that's what I thought. We weren't supposed to land there. So that's why I was asking.
Indian Ranch?
Yeah.
The Indian Ranch. Yeah, that's what I meant. Sorry.
I'd land there. It's not my primary. I try to get to, my primary there is Antelope or Montgomery or the new elk. The elk that got paved. That's how I look at it. And then Willows.
Which elk is paved? The one up on the hill?
I don't know.
Elk one, it's the southwest one.
You can't miss
Southwest
it.
one.
It's a black piece of pavement. You can't.
Yeah, it's a big. Thomas landed there a year ago and found some rattlesnakes out there, and then since then they paved it. And it's super nice. It was graded last year, and now it's actually paved.
I mean, the thing is, unless there's cues, you know, if you're falling off the top in the summer, you might as well just go. If there's cues, it's a different deal. But if there's not cues, you might as well just glide out to Willows or Antelope or Montgomery. Because you're not going to get away. Because you're below the inversion.
Awesome. Anything else, Russ? Does that kind of answer? I know that doesn't really.
Oh yeah, thanks. Thanks, Pete. Thanks, Ben. Great.
Yeah.
Great comments. I appreciate it.
Absolutely.
That's one beer, Russ. Every question has a beer attached to it.
I owe you a 6-pack.
I'm totally kidding, Russ. I'm messing around.
All right. So next topic, we'll talk about the weather and the day, right? So I think there's a lot of things to talk about weather. We can get bogged down and everything, and I take a less simplistic view than my father, but a more simplistic view than Kempton. So, there's a number of things that go into the soaring forecast. First off, I know I saw Andy in here, and I want to thank Andy for continually waking up at 7 and coming in at 7 at night and coloring the pretty colors in for us. It's really appreciated. But
for you, Ben, anytime.
Hey, you just got to get those darker colors out. I like the reds better than the yellows and greens.
I'll work on that.
Good. They're coming. So what do I use? I know a lot of people have been making the transition over to SkySight, and I've been using the RASP still. I haven't used SkySight much. Pablo's been using it a little bit more, and we've been trying to play it out. But I'm going to get off the presentation here and then just walk through kind of some of the quick elements I use to get the forecast. But as we talk about, what should you look at? I think the biggest thing is the forecast is great, but I think everyone looks at the forecast a little bit. I take a different approach to looking at the forecast. When we first look at the good day, some people use just the sounding, some people use BL top, H crit. As soon as I see it's a good day, I try to ask myself, why is this wrong? Right? And try and convince myself why it's going to be a bad day. And if I can't, it's probably going to be a good soaring day. But usually, you know, there's, especially this time of year, I've had a number of people come out and go, the soaring's gonna be great. And I'm out here doing patterns and stuff going, I don't know what you're looking at. So trying to figure it out. And then usually we can go dissect one or two things like missing the high cloud forecast, or not picking up that the winds are, you know, the sounding looks great for today, but the winds are 50 miles an hour. So, you know, we see a part, and especially this time of year, we really want to come fly, but, you know, try and figure out where that looks like. So let's go look at the forecast for the next 2 days and come out of here. So if we start at the Williams Soaring website, is where I always go. Under the weather section, from the homepage, under the weather section, we are going to come in and click on, no matter what I do, there's our 55 mile an hour gust today, 11:39. I always start with windy. I use windy.com every single morning. I look up either Williams, or you can type in CN12, which is our airport identifier. And you're gonna get Williams Glider Port, and you're gonna get a couple things over here on the side. So here at Williams.
So Ben,
yep.
Currently using the European forecast model. Why not the GPS?
I find the winds on the European forecasting model to be a little bit more accurate, I find.
Really?
But I click on all of them because they're easy to click on, and I want to see what different people are thinking, right? So look at the GSF for today, right? And this is, wait, where are we? Are we at the surface? No, we're at 6,000 feet. It's showing like 12 to 13 knots. The European model showing 16 knots, 16 to 20 over here on the mediagram on the left side. Oop, let me annotate.
You're back up the timeline to 12 o'clock today.
Yeah. Oops, wrong one.
On the bottom?
Yep.
And then compare the two models and see what they say.
Pretty close.
Yeah.
But I find the European model, like I like the European model better for the mediogram a little bit. So if I close this, or no, I'm gonna search Williams, California. So here's our Williams, California down here on the bottom. The things that I use most often are, I'm looking at the winds. Oops, keeps moving on me. Move our cursor to the Williams area. So there's our little dot here at Williams. There's our winds. Gusting 37, 40. As tomorrow, 35s. And so just that alone is probably going to say I'm not going to the airport. But then I can look out on Monday and go, what's going on Monday? You know, there's my crazy crosses later in the day. And now I've looked at some winds on some different levels, because the RASP isn't going to say that same thing tomorrow or when we look at it. So kind of remember what we're seeing here for the winds. See down here, Pete, how the GSF backed off quite a bit.
Yeah.
And the European model is closer. You know, the icon's even closer. I can look at the NAM. It just depends on what I'm looking at. I kind of look at all of them to draw a picture, though. And then
the point is that you want to draw a picture across all the models and see what looks right, or your best.
I have 7 to pick from, right? So I can just pick my favorite one, and that'll be the weather. That's how that works.
But it defaults to the European model because windy's from Czech.
Yeah. So the other thing I like to look at is the mediogram. All right, so this is a really good indicator of where the high clouds are. If there's going to be high clouds in, you know, the rain forecast for Monday looks like it's backed off a little bit, looking like rain most of the day Thursday for now. We'll see if that backs off too. But you can tell most of the time, if there's high clouds or this low cloud sitting in, what this is going to tell me and this is 2 days out, right? So take that for what it is. But if I look at Monday's RASP, I'm going to expect, just based on seeing this, that because this high cloud's sitting in here and here, the day is going to be slower than what the RASP says. Not always, but that's just, real quick what I'm seeing when I'm looking at these models. So if this little thing was sitting here Monday morning and I see this, I'm going to expect I'm going to wake up, I'm going to see some clouds. I see that cloud coming in. And even though the forecast says at 1 o'clock that I'm going to have, this big, nice, unstable air all the way up to 10,000 feet, it's probably not going to heat the same as expected, right? So that's kind of everything I'm getting from windy. I'm using winds, I'm using the meteogram. Those are kind of the only two things I'll use. As I back out, now I'm going to click the Dr. Jack RASP and we'll look at today, right? When I look at today, the first thing is usually go to the sounding and see what's going on. So if I just looked at this and this alone, right, I go 4,000 foot day. That's good enough to practice thermaling here at Williams. If I go a little bit further, I can look over here and go, well, that looks like a not good day to practice thermaling, right? So all these things link together, right? I can use BL top. BL top's going to show me, 4,000, 6,000, kind of 4, 6-ish out here. Nothing really going on. H crit I know is going to be lower than that, so no point in looking on a day to day. But the 4 I use H crit, BL top, BL max up and down because I want to know if there's convergence. There's not today. Obviously, it's all blown around. And Q-pot, Q-base C-pot greater than 0. Are there going to be clouds? So are there going to be clouds? Is there convergence? How high is it? It's the only 4 I ever look at. Anything more than that, I don't really care. Sometimes I'll look at vertical velocities if I'm looking for waves specifically. But that's it. Thermal updraft velocity, it's going to be as strong as it's going to be. BL average winds, the winds are going to be where they're going to be. I already know they're going to be strong. I looked at that on windy. All the different soundings aren't really going to tell me much unless I really need to dig in. So I use 5 if you count the Williams sounding, right? As we move on to Sunday, kind of same thing. Look, seeing the same high winds. I see a nice wind gradient. That can mean wave if I can get off the ground. So I already determined I can't get off the ground. So let's move past Sunday to Monday and go, what's going to go on Monday, right? We already said that there's going to be some high clouds, maybe in the morning. It might rain, but this is showing that there might not even be any clouds. I'm seeing a little bit on the grid scale cloudiness there. A little bit here. Some clouds at 10,000 feet over Williams. This looks like a really good day. I do have those 20-mile-an-hour winds and a pretty decent crosswind. So that can throw a hiccup in the mix, but it doesn't write off Monday. It means we need to stay tuned for a day or two. As I move through, it's going to be a good day. It's going to be sporty to get on and off the ground. So back to slide 1, what was the big question, right? Do I have what it takes to deal with a crosswind? Just because the soaring is going to be awesome and we could probably go do something really cool. Let's go out and look at BL top. Like I said, wind torn. We could look at buoyancy shear. That's going to be pretty low. That's not the most encouraging. But if we look at BL max up and down, not showing much. Q base, CPOT greater than 0. There's going to be clouds, 6,000 feet or so. Depending on how much moisture is in there, it could definitely be a good day. But back to the original question, do I have what it takes to deal with that kind of crosswind? The soaring might be good. The soaring might sustain. The buoyancy shear might mix it up. We might not have, there might be too much wind to sustain anything. But if it did shape out to be a good day, it doesn't matter if I can't safely get on and off the ground, right? So that's kind of a walkthrough and what I look at, when I'm looking 3 days out. I don't do a whole lot more than 3 days out, mostly because I don't have to, because I live where I work and I'm here every day. If I was doing a lot more flying or had to make the drive out, maybe I'd be looking further out for the 7-day and the 5-day, but they're just so inaccurate that I'll look at big picture too and look at kind of, is there a high pressure? Is there a low pressure coming in? Pete, anything to add?
Nope.
Questions?
None on the chat line.
Cool. Moving on from the weather. And so that, like I said, that's what I look at. Then as we move further, what is the forecast versus what is the day doing? That is the most important thing out there, right? Is the second you get to the airport, the forecast goes out the window. The only reason you're on your computer looking at a forecast, other than looking at high clouds and seeing what that's moving around at, that's the only time I think that looking at the computer is going to help you. The forecast is going to get you in the car to get here. Once you get out here, you got to watch what the day's doing, right? The forecast might say 1 o'clock, but if the high cloud's still sitting over and it's still cold outside, the day hasn't heated up, you're not going soaring yet, right? Just because the glider's scheduled at 1 o'clock doesn't mean 1 o'clock is launch time. The day is going to dictate what you can do and what you can't do. Some days you're going to get off early. Some days you're going to get off late. You just have to watch the day, see how it develops. Maybe, you don't, especially, if you're really looking to go get 5-6 hours of soaring in, you need to launch before or right at the first Q pop. But when that first little wispy Q pops, the day is just starting going. So for 80% of us here, rather than getting out there and struggling for an hour, we might as well sit on the ground for an extra hour and relax and hang out and go get 2 to 3 solid hours of really good, strong soaring in the middle of the day, rather than scraping along and falling out and losing the entire day, or having a really hard time and using the first hour and a half to 2 hours just to get back up to where the soaring's good, then only have 1 good hour to run home. So think about what is the lifespan of that day and what are we trying to do? So with that, the next topic we're going to get into is setting the goal. So backing up a little bit, we've made it. We looked at ourselves and we said, yep, I'm good to go. I got all my stuff. My glider's good to go. We're going to the airport. We got the forecast. Andy drew the right colors in, and we're going out to the airport based on the forecast. Now we're here and ready to go. The setting the goal can happen the day and the night before. I would say the absolute best goal setter I've seen is Peter Kelly. If you've ever watched the forum post on Peter Kelly's flights, he looks at the forecast and he writes out on the forum exactly what he is going to do to the T, to the turn point, to the time. He lists it out perfectly. Does it happen every time? No, but he sets really, really good, strong goals for his flights. When you get out there, that doesn't mean that's the only way to go fly. When you're setting a goal, I think you have to have a couple things in mind. You have to look at the day and what you want to do. And I've given presentations on goal setting before, and I'm not going to go back over all of those. But, there's different levels of goals. You can set a 3-year plan, a 5-year plan. Do you want to fly to nationals eventually? You can set all these goals, big picture. But what we're going to talk today is, what am I going to go do today? And everyone's in it for something different, right? Am I just going to go have a fun day? Right? What am I trying to set? Do I just want to go fly for an hour? Do I want to fly for 4 hours? Do I want to maximize the day? Do I want to maximize the OLC points? Do I want to put in a cross-country task? Do I want to beat Pete on every cross-country task? All of those goals have to be set. You need to set that goal before you take off. There's very few days that I leave that I don't have either with a student. I rarely, now that I have we have this VSA cross-country series going, do I leave without a task programmed in. Because flying with a goal and flying with a plan, even if I'm not trying to race, flying with a target at the end of the cloud line helps me fly more efficiently to get there. And if I can fly more efficiently through the day, meaning taking stronger thermals, not lollygagging, and I'm not sitting there at the top of thermals going, am I going to go north or south? I have it programmed in. I know where I want to go. I can go past that. I can cut short. I'm not stuck to that, but leaving with that goal in mind is going to help push me through the flight, help me guide my decisions, and ultimately help me progress in my soaring career to go better myself. Because I can go look at the goals I set and go, did I achieve them? Yes or no? Why didn't I? Maybe I just decided, hey, I don't really want to do this today. I'm going to go extend off, or I'm not having fun. So I'm just going to go bug around at GOAT and have a good time. But if I can set a goal, I can go, why didn't that goal work? Did the forecast not hold? Did I not make good decisions? Did I just get unlucky? What happened? So when you get up there, deciding, what is the day for? Is it just a fun day? Is it a training day, or is it a distance day? Or, is a milestone day? I think is a better way to say that. Am I going to go break or set a big milestone for myself, where maybe I'm going to go take the furthest task I've flown? Maybe I'm going to go take a task and fly it the fastest I've ever flown it. Or am I going to go do a training day where I'm going to go pick a lap and go around it 3 or 4 times and try and better my time, each one on this little short laps that we can set up. Yeah. Then, that leads right into always flying with a purpose, right? I always want to have some sort of purpose to my flying, right? Whether it can be an arbitrary goal. It doesn't have to be set on the ground. Maybe you're flying out and you're just your goal is, I'm going to get all the way to the end of the cloud street. If you have that goal, at least you always have that 10-minute, 15-minute, 30-minute goal out in front. And it doesn't hurt to build it on the fly. I just find that it really helps if you set it on the ground. But if you're just saying, hey, I'm flying OLC, I'm going to go to the end of the cloud street about 2 or 3 times. I'm not saying there's anything wrong with that, but have that purpose of, I'm trying to get to the end of the cloud street, not just I'm trying to, burble along to the next thermal necessarily.
What I've done here is I went to Williams.
Mm-hmm.
And they have a weather page. And Ben was working off of it before. It's actually very good. He was just saying what he does.
Was there a question there, or was there a question in here? No.
Something happened.
Okay. So continuing on. Let's see. Flying with a purpose. And then as we're setting goals, I think we, again, back to kind of some of the other talks a little bit, but Pete and I spoke to setting goals and trying to progress and help out, and backing up to it a little bit. The big thing was we always want to focus on 3 things that we're trying to improve on a flight. You don't always have to work on those 3 things specifically, but when you go up and say, I'm gonna improve on things, especially early on or early season, it's really, you want to focus on 3 elements, right? It could be any 3 things. Maybe it's, pick something like this flight. I really want to work on core my thermals quickly. I want to work on not lollygagging at the top of the thermals, but only pick 3 major topics that you're trying to work on. Doing my having a 10-second scan in the cockpit. Being able to use my instrument efficiently without having to make much adjustment in the sky, whatever that might be. There's 3, you want to set 3 things, because we can only really efficiently work on 3 goals. We set more than 3 things and things get cluttered and mushed, and it's just too much to work on, plus go have a good time. So try and make a list of goals, but each time you go fly, work on 3 of those, right? Pete, anything to add? Continuing?
Yeah, Ben?
Yeah, Russ, go ahead.
Yes, Russ. What's a 10-second cockpit scan?
So ideally, every minute that you're flying, you don't want to have to spend any more than 10 seconds in your cockpit as you're flying. You want to be spending, 50 seconds in a minute outside your cockpit looking around, and you want to be able to get all the information you can within 10 seconds in the cockpit. So that means, and to do that, you have to be able to really know where everything is in the cockpit and what information you're looking for when you're flying. So being able to look down at your clear nav and quickly assess for traffic and then come back up. Be able to get how far you are from the next turn point quickly without having to sit and focus on the screen very long, because you can look for the exact data you're looking for, extract that data from the cockpit, and then go back outside to focusing outside. Because outside's what's telling you what's going to happen next, right?
Yeah, I would think it would be more like 1 or 2 seconds in the cockpit, maybe every 20 seconds.
It can be that's going to work out to the same math. But the whole point is, for every minute, you don't want more than 10 seconds in the cockpit. So,
Gotcha.
Essentially we're trying to commit no more than 10% of our time to instrumentation in a flight.
What you don't want to be doing, Russ, is fiddling around with all the instruments inside your cockpit, because hopefully that's all set up and it's minor. Looking at your instruments to confirm what your thinking is, not the other way around.
Yeah, I gotcha.
Yeah. So yeah, and you're absolutely right, Russ. If you're on a 20-second scan, you should be able to get, you can gather most of what you need in about 2 seconds. And if there's something that catches your attention, like traffic on the farm, then you might have to divert 4, 5, 6 seconds to it real quick to go, okay, I saw, the 2 seconds is just look down. Whoa, there's a blip. Another 3 seconds is saying, okay, is that even a relative target that I'm gonna have an issue with? And then back out to find it outside, right?
Yeah, I gotcha. Okay.
So finding that kind of flow, mostly it's being comfortable knowing what data you need to extract, because there's so much information we can put in the cockpit, right? Especially, flying with any computer, but especially there's, people flying with LX navs, people flying with the CU mobile, even with ClearNav, you can turn on way too many boxes. And the more boxes and more information we have, because it's neat, the more information we have to shift through, right? Awesome. So setting the goals, like I said, it's a great, the VSA cross country series, for those who haven't known, I'll take a second to promote it, is, we've put together these 15 tasks, and there's no, you can do them on any day of the week. There's a bonus day on Saturday, and we're going to call tasks then, but going up and having that in the computer and going from point to point and seeing your speeds and seeing your times against everyone else, even if it's not competitive in the sense that, hey, I got to get to the top, but just to go up and say, hey, can I complete this task, and have others completed it? It's been a really good goal for the students that I've been flying with. And it really puts it puts a lot of purpose to the flying, and is a nice, easy way to start incorporating this flying with a goal theory into your flying. Whether you still want to go big, there's plenty of tasks that have big turn areas, so you're not limited to where you're going just because there's a task on your screen. All right, moving on.
Okay, Ben.
Yes.
A comment.
Yes.
I just want to, I want to comment that VSA series has really improved my flying. I really enjoy it.
I'm glad. I'm really glad. It's been awesome to see. You really kind of took it and ran the hardest with it last year, which is great. And it's awesome to see everyone turn in flights and go further, making it further than you thought you could, or doing twice as much flying in a day that you thought was possible because you got those in there. And I want to thank you I want to really take a second to thank Russ for taking on all the scoring. It's no small task keeping up on all the scoring here. And I wasn't keeping up quite on it. So Russ took it over, and it's been doing great.
So Ben, there's one question from the audience.
Yes.
Where would one get the VSA task list?
Where would one? I can show you. All right. Let's exit the slideshow. And we are going to go to williamsoaring.com, your one-stop shop for all of your soaring needs. So on the William Soaring website, you can go to pilot information and bulletins, important bulletins and current information. And there's the first bulletin is runway and ramp maintenance in progress. Check for daily conditions. The second one is the task book and the PDF. So you can click that, downloadable, and you'll get, it's a 32-page document, maybe?
It's an incredible document.
It's incredible. And it has all of the goals that we set. It has the awards you can achieve. We need more people to participate. Pete has too many trophies, and we need to start taking Pete's trophies. So there's many rules. There's a few rules. We kept to the Rex 10 rule limit, with the most important rule is I have final say. But it's not Rex has final say, so that's a good thing. There's some safety information, and then you get into, there's the task list broken down. So we have, there's areas for, we have, I think, half and half turn area task and assigned task for basically our entire soaring area. We got all, we encompass everything up from Shasta down to the Delta. So there's literally a task written for every single day to fly at Williams, if you are so inclined. Again, you should be, so you can beat Pete. It's very satisfying.
That won't be hard to beat me this year.
This is true. All right. Back to the presentation. So, we have made it through the pre-flight. We decided we could fly. We looked at the weather. We decided it was going to be a good day. We came out to the airport. Now we've set our goals. Maybe we have our task in, or we decided we're going to go play maximum OLC day, whatever we decided to do for our goals. Now we have to go through, and there are going to be a lot of really important decisions to make in the day, right? And it's really important for the later part that we're going to talk about, the post-flight analysis, to think about or take note of the major decision points in the day. Sometimes you don't know they're major decision points as you're going through, but in the post-flight analysis, it's important to think about them. But first off, and all these are posed as questions, right? And that's how I pose everything, is a question I ask in the day. So first off, we looked at the forecast. Is the day shaping up the way I expected? Right? I think that's very important. We're gonna answer that, ask that question on the ground. We're gonna ask that question right off toe, and we're gonna ask ourselves that question periodically throughout the day, whether we have a 2-hour flight or a 10-hour flight. Is it continuing is the forecast holding? Right? I think it's most important probably in the first 30 minutes to hour of your flight to really decide, do I have to gear shift from this whole, hey, Kemp's saying, hey, we're going to Oregon today, versus, yeah, maybe I'm not going to make it off snow, right? So as you go through that, is it better? Is it worse? Is it holding, right? And continually ask yourself that question. What is my turnaround point today, right? Who knows what a turnaround point is?
I do.
Oh. You do? What's a turnaround point, Pete?
The point where you decide to turn around, which is usually 4 o'clock for me.
Yeah. Right. It should be, it's probably going to take you longer to go out than it is to get back, because just the way the day develops, right? It usually starts weak and gets stronger. But how much time do I have to get back? Quick sidebar, I learned a very, very important thing about turnaround time in an ASK 21 this year. I decided to take one up to Yellow Peak. And it was 4:30 when I turned around and I looked at the sky and I said, this might be difficult. I skimped home, but it was not as strong as, it was 4:30. I was in a climb at Yellow Peak and I was like, I think it's going to be all right at Black Butte here in half an hour. And it was, but 5 minutes later, and it was not going to be. So keeping those in mind, how much more day do I have? How much more do I have to go travel? And do I have an engine behind me? Because that might be the difference.
The other thing to add, Ben, is that it also might be a serious gear shift on your approach, meaning slowing down, taking a little weaker thermals to stay up in the lift band compared to what you did going north.
Yeah, absolutely.
You got to fly the weather you have, not the weather you want.
Yeah. So that's really important. And it leads down to the next thing is you have 3 or 4 questions always playing in the back of your mind. My first question is, what can I expect in the next 10 minutes, right? Am I going fast? Is this cloud streak going to last? Where's my next thermal, right? I need to get a thermal pretty much the whole time we're flying. We need some sort of lift every 10 minutes, right? Just about. Maybe it's less, maybe it's more, but generally speaking, where we're flying, we're taking a climb every 10 to 15 minutes, whether it's running along convergence and we just got to keep that flow going. What does the next 30 minutes look like? Maybe that's the turnaround on the clouds, but what big picture, what's the trending like? Is it trending stronger? Is it trending weaker? Does it look like I might have something tricky in the transition up ahead, right? Do I see a big blue hole? Do I see high clouds coming in? Do I see something that might trigger a change? And then where's my next hour going, right? Is it in the building trend? Is it in the weakening trend? If it is in the weakening trend, or is the day starting to overdevelop? Maybe this next hour is going to get tricky on my way home. So I want to get up to cloud base, get high, stay high, versus, hey, it's getting really strong. I'm going to start running faster and getting lower so I can get faster climbs and start increasing my cross-country speed, increase my cross-country speed. I can afford to miss a climb if the day is building, because I'm going to get a strong one down the road as long as I stay on top of the peaks, the Mendos, right? And back to one of the first questions, right, that we asked on the first slide, that's really important. What am I willing to do today? Right? That's a question you're going to you ask yourself on the ground. It is very, very, very hard to stick to that when you get in the air. I know, because I break my rules all the time. Mostly I break my students' rules because I still have my personal minimums that I'm willing to, I don't stretch my personal minimums, but when I'm instructing, I find it really hard. I tell everybody, we're going to keep it in Glida Williams, but I'll be right on that edge. And like, hey, we need to turn around now. But I see that 2 minutes from here is another climb. And I know I have glide to anywhere I'm willing to go in the 32 or the 21 that I'm flying. Because on a realistic thing, I know what I'm able to execute versus where I want my students to go. And I'm trying to it's a hard balance to go. Am I going to I drew a personal line. Am I going to push past that for 2 minutes? That can be very, it can be very dangerous. It really can. So you really have to decide, how hard is that personal minimum? Am I really going to peel off and go out to Willows versus am I willing to try Montgomery? Versus how confident am I then that next climb's going to work? You really have to, make those decisions, because I've flown wingtip to wingtip to people that are going to make different decisions than I am. And I have to accept that they're going to fly away from me. I've flown further out than they have, and I've made it work. I've flown further out than they have, and I've started the engine and not been happy at the nationals and other places. You can't let anyone else make that decision for you. You ultimately have to make that decision and know what you're willing to do. There is one caveat to that, is there's one person that can make that decision for you. His name's Rex Mays. And if you're renting one of his gliders, the answer is Williams. So you can't break your personal minimum and go, oh, sorry, well, I was just screwing around and I went out a little further than I needed to. If you're in someone else's glider, you got to apply their rules. So that is one thing to always consider. If you don't like their rules, he also sells gliders, and you can buy a glider and make your own rules.
But there's a super important point Ben's making here, is that, it's you and your glider. You got to fly at the level you want to fly at, and don't let other people convince you that you can do what Pete's doing or Ben's doing or Kemp's doing. Back to the whole core of what Ben's trying to say here. Because I'm willing to land in way harder places than most of you are.
Yeah. And also with that, back to what am I capable, the first slide we talked about, what am I capable of doing, right? Not putting anyone out or saying I'm not saying I'm better than anybody, but I spent a lot of time on really, really weak days scraping over mountains. So if you haven't done that and don't have that skill set, then maybe you can't push a little bit lower. I've made a lot of really low saves. I've missed a lot of really low saves, but because I've made a lot of low saves, I'm willing to go continue to try that low save. If you have not been on the rock scraping around, you don't have any business there. Or you need to go get training there, or maybe you need to ease into it, but it's not this, it can be a very unsafe place. You can execute those saves very safely, but it does, it takes time and effort to make that happen. Any other comments on that, Pete?
No other comments from the world unless somebody has a question. Anybody? Come on.
All right, next. Instrument usage.
Nice photo. Uh-oh.
Sorry, one second.
Oh.
All right, I'm back.
Nice photo.
So, for those who don't know or haven't seen the ClearNav ad, this is Pete and Rick.
Yeah, Interbo. It's at Mifflin, running the ridges.
It's with Rick Interbo running the ridges. And Pete has some beautiful instruments in his panel here. So I think it's really important to understand and take a look at. So the first question, what is in my panel, right? For those of you flying, someone, maybe you bought a new glider, maybe you're renting out of Williams, maybe you just upgraded, but it's really, really important, back to that 10-second scan. I can't keep that 10-second scan if I don't know what's in my panel. I don't know how to use my instruments to their full capability. If I'm not using those instruments to my full capability, it doesn't mean I'm not going to be successful, but I am really handicapping myself in the flying I'm doing, or I'm taking away from being able to execute the maneuvers the way I need to, because I'm not understanding what's in my panel, or I'm making bad decisions because I'm not understanding what's in my panel. So, there's all sorts of different theories on what people want, what people have. Plenty of people are flying LX, are flying CU Mobile, have their tablets, have their phones, whatever you're using, you need to be proficient in. There's many ways to do that. There's, but you need to just sit down and take the time to learn the instrument to its full capability. The other side of the thing is we have way too much information in the cockpit now. So what do I need to execute the flight? What do I need to know right now? And there's a big difference between what do I need to know versus what do I want to know versus what's neat, right? I need to know what the wind is doing. I need to know if I'm in a thermal. Do I need to know the average rate of climb? Yeah, that's a pretty important need, right? Do I need to know the rate of turn? Not necessarily. I can just feel that, right? I need to know that I'm in the thermal. I need to know where the strong side of the thermal is. I need to know where to adjust to. Do I need the forecast on my flight computer? Not really. It's something you can do, but do we need it? So answering those questions, what do you need to see? Do I need local time? Do I need ground speed turned on? Do I need track and bearing turned on? Do I need start time turned on? There's a million options you can turn on and screens you can go, but what do I need? When I first started flying, I had all these options turned on. I'm like, this is super awesome. I can get all this cool information, click. And then, pretty soon I'm like, well, I just took up half my screen, so I can't even see traffic on there. I started backing off a little bit. So Understand what you have turned on, what is your computer telling you. There's many ways to set up computers. There's ways to set it up for final glide. There's ways we can do it. But when we're racing or flying tasks, or when you learn at Williams anyway, or learn with the ClearNav system here at Williams, we tell you set your margin height to 1,500 feet, right? So you're flying with a margin of 1,500 feet built into the computer. And we tell you that's what it's going to get. That's what it's, that margin is gliding you back at whatever McCready setting you have in there. So it's saying, if you fly that speed, this is how high you'll be above 1,500 feet when you get back to the field. So if I go click on Snow Mountain and I have a 1,500 foot margin and I see minus 800 feet, can I fly over Snow Mountain? Yes, I can. I'm going to be, it's trying to get me over Snow Mountain at 1,500 feet. But if you just go and click on Snow Mountain as your next destination and see minus 800, you go, can I get there? I don't know. And so now the computer's telling you information that you don't know how to depict. So you have to understand the logic that you put in the computer to be able to use it. You can look there and go, okay, cool, I can use it. I can use the glide amoebas and look out on the screen and say, hey, it's showing that I'm good. Or maybe you're just looking outside and seeing the sight picture, which is ultimately what you need to do, and go, am I making it over that mountain that I'm flying to? The computer's not going to tell you that, your eyeballs are, right? But if you're not putting good data in, you're not going to get good data out. And it's really easy to set them up improperly. When we're flying in contest, we're flying to a finish cylinder. So we set that arrival altitude to 0. When we set that arrival altitude to 0, that means I'm going to finish right at that top of the cylinder. So if I'm finishing at a tree farm cylinder at 6,000 feet, I want to glide to that tree farm cylinder at 6,000 feet. I don't want to be 1,500 feet above that. Then I got to do math, and that's more brain power than I need to try and do backwards math that I can't do quickly in the cockpit. So you need to understand or maybe you can do it. However you want to set up your own logic, that's on you. But you have to understand what you're trying to do and what information that computer's giving you, right? We already talked about how long we should look in the panel, right? So we want to be able to pull out all this data in less than 10 seconds. Things that are important to understand are, how many glide computers do you have in the cockpit and how many are used for navigation? So typically you have the big in-panel display. If you're running the ClearNav Vario, it also has a display information number. So is my glide set back to Williams with 1,500 feet? Well, that's my safety glide set. If I'm out of glide of Williams, then I should switch it to the next place. If I'm up north of Sheet Iron, I don't care about Williams anymore, because if I fall out, I'm gliding to Willows. If I'm north of Blackview, I'm gliding to Reading or Red Bluff, right? I'm going to switch or Corning or Orland, whatever I'm gliding to. I'm going to switch I'm going to switch my variometer to always have that safety margin in, and my computer in front of me is going to reconfirm what I'm thinking outside. It's not going to tell me anything that I don't already know. It's going to confirm what I think I know, right? As I'm bumped along.
So one thing to add is that you also want to practice gliding at the normal speed, so you get a sense of how far your gliders really do glide back to Williams or back to wherever you're going. And so it's important, if that's 1,500 feet, 2,000 feet, whatever, to glide back to Williams at a McCready 2 or so and see what that feels like compared to bombing out of the hills at warp speed because you're 10,000 feet. So not to land off field, but you want to be able to trust your computer, make sure it's set up right, and also trust the glide you see outside the cockpit.
Yeah,
when you need to do it, you can do it.
Yeah. And so, and ultimately, like I said, all it breaks down to is, do I really know how to use what I have? And if I don't, then go get training on it, go watch some videos, go talk to someone who has the instrument. And even if you think you know how to use it, go watch, go talk to somebody else using that same system and ask them how they use it. A perfect example. So I just put up on YouTube like a 16-minute orientation tutorial on the new ClearNav color display variometer. And I had a couple of people test it out, and we're working on making new videos and making them better. And this is kind of a hand shot, cell phone video, but it shows you all the information you need. And by going through and playing with and talking about some of the different logic, I showed even Pete, after watching the video, said, "Hey, I didn't realize that was what that number was doing." Because if you're not using that vario in that way, everyone's interpreting the data a little bit differently. Not to say he wasn't using it properly or wasn't getting that data, but we're seeing different things. I didn't know it until I flew with Dennis Liniken, and he's like, "Yeah, this is what the top number means." I said, "I have no idea. I've been flying with this for 2 years and I've never used that data that way." I've used that data, just not the same way he has. And it helps mold your thinking, and you're always improving on what you're doing. So know your instruments and know the layout, especially if you're hopping between airplanes, regularly, the 224s, the 24 and the 23, know what are in each cockpit. And it's going to be harder, but you got to be able to quickly look down and glance at what you have going on. So now we've made it through the flight planning. We've made it through the in-flight decision-making. We're using our instruments better, and we're understanding how to use your instruments. And we've completed our flight, right? We've gone in and we've loaded it up. Oh, go.
I think there's a question from Russ, I think.
Yeah, Ben, I want to, compliment you on that video. I've watched it 6 times, and I pick up something every single time I watch it. It's, that instrument is so complicated. There's so much data. You have to understand it, like you said, before you get in the air. Good job.
Yeah. Well, thank you. And that's the whole, I'm hoping to make a couple more like that in the next couple of weeks when we have some soaring and can actually play with the thermal assist on there. But they are so, there's so much, in some ways, it's almost distracting how much information there is, because that thermal assist, you can really look at it, and it can help you make bad moves. It can help you make good moves. I've looked down when I'm flying with students, and I'm paying attention the whole time the student's flying, but maybe not super engaged in the thermal while I'm looking around. And I look down at the instrument, and it's giving some bad data because he moved the wrong direction. And without thinking about it, I just followed the instrument and lost the thermal. So you have to be able to know what you're thinking and look down, and it should be confirming. And if it doesn't, then you start running through, okay, who's missing something? Is it, right? But you can kind of start playing through that analysis. So good. Thanks, Russ. I'm really glad you enjoyed it. So next, probably one of the more important parts, right, is the post-flight analysis. So, and there's many ways to do this. I'm going to walk you through kind of my post-flight analysis method, and we're going to talk about ways you can do it, whether you're flying or not, right? So in the post-flight analysis, what am I going to look at, right? You can look at all sorts of data. CU breaks the flights down into a lot of different elements. And I look at things differently when I'm racing compared to, kind of what am I doing for training levels? If you go put your flight in, there's CU, there's, everyone posted up on OLC, but I think from a big picture forecasting and what was possible plan, it's nice to be able to look at your flight relative to other people's flights if there were other people flying in that day. Not to compare yourself to one another, but to go, hey, was I successful in the same area as they were, or where were they more successful where I wasn't? Was it that I wasn't willing to go out as far? Did I not make the right decision? Because if you just go fly by yourself on a soaring day and you fell out, did I miss a thermal? I don't know. We're exploring the entire atmosphere with 15 to 18 meters of wing, and we're only getting data from a 4-foot section. Really, we're only getting data from a tiny little tube that we have to put right in the correct place in space, right? When you think about it in that term, it's amazing that we find lift. So did I miss a thermal by a wingspan or two? And it happens all the time. That's actually the picture I have right here. And I will show you what I'm talking about on the site I use called Avery. So where do I find that information and what does a post-flight analysis look like? So I'm going to take you kind of through two different versions of post-flight analysis here. So as I exit the presentation here, we're going to go to the interweb and we're going to start on a site called Avery. Oops. So this is, I have pulled up a flight that I did probably 2 or 3 years ago, I guess now, with Rick Inderbo, Pete Alexander, and myself in the 32, and I was flying with Joel Inderbo. So the site Avery, it does a lot of like what CU, the rat race does on CU. It has some, it's a pretty cool, strong tool. It's easily shareable on like Facebook or to other links. You can email the links around so multiple people can see them. You can upload multiple flights, which I'll show you in a little bit. But up in this top corner, I get some cool statistics. Not quite as nice as the statistics that I would normally get on CU, but I can see speed, altitude, climb rates. I can click on this button here and pick who I want to follow, whether I want to follow Pete, Rick, or Ben. I'm going to follow Ben for now. And as I click go, I can speed up or slow down the flight. So we're going to go to like 32 times the speed. So you can see Pete and Rick took the first toes out. I got to wait for a little bit for the second toe. So they're just going to go spot the thermals for me. I'm going to drag this along here so we get out a little bit further. There we are on toe. Pete's just getting, or Rick's just getting out on snow. And we had set goal. I think we set a task or something. We were trying to go up to Yellow Peak and back, or we were going to play follow the leader. Or I don't remember what, but you can zoom in. And as we're zooming in, we can see where each other took our climbs at. We can grab and drag around and see what the what elevations we were all at. Let me slow this down now. So we can say who's in the better air and what are people doing. But as we came, you know, we all kind of came to the same thermal. We're all mostly in the same place. I can see that I made a deviation out to the left that wasn't too good because Pete and Rick ended up above me in that thermal. But what's really awesome is as we fly around, they both left early. And we're going to get over here to see where Goat Hill is. It's right before M6. As we get up over Black Butte wasn't working. We're going to get over here to this Goat Hill area. And I made a little bit of a decision to move out to the left. They're doing better than I am. It actually was not a good decision at this point. And as we talked about earlier, it's important to think of key decision points, right? So right here in this flight, and we were talking on the radio and racing, but it was actually a point where had we been racing, there would have been a big lead taken here, is I made a deviation off here to the left. There was a lot of things that were saying, don't do that. Pete made a small deviation because he saw Pete's line or Rick's line, but it didn't work out. And at this point, I was thinking, wow, that was a really bad decision. They're making a lot of distance on me, right? But as we continue to track along, Rick's out in front, Pete's trailing just a hair. And Rick turns early. I don't think Pete and I, maybe we saw each other at that point. But Pete's looking back and he saw Rick peel off. So Rick had missed a climb or had decided that that wasn't working and there wasn't a lot of head and he was getting lower. So he was going to come back here where it was better. We weren't going to push off to Yellow Peak because there wasn't a whole lot saying it was going to be good out here. Pete made the deviation because he was going to come inside of Rick to go ahead and stay with him and stay in the same air mass. So when Rick hit something and I said, hey, I'm already low. They're going to pick something up back there. I'm going to go just a little bit further. And by extending out maybe 3 more ring spans than Rick and probably another 1/4 mile than Pete, I found a climb. And when I called the climb, Pete doubled back and Rick was already too low and committed to make it back to where we were. So what started as 10 minutes ago, a bad decision over the course of a 4-hour flight ended up being what would have been the difference between, 20 or 30 minutes ahead on course by the time they deviated back and then, doubled back. Rick and Pete probably would have got the same climb, and I would have been at the top of my climb off, another 20 miles ahead. What that means for the next 30, 45 minutes, there's plenty of other times I would have messed up because we wouldn't have all been together. So who knows? I'm not saying that was the only decision of the day, but by being able to look at this flight in this way, if I just looked at my flight, I go, yeah, I got a good climb. If I go look at what did they do and why did I make the decision to go a little bit further? The only reason I probably made that decision was because I was flying with 2 other people and I had the ability and had the information of what they did and said, hey, I'm not losing anything by going out another quarter mile, right? But you can learn a lot in that post-flight analysis, looking at the turn-by-turn data here. You can see where we climbed, who climbed better, who climbed worse. Why did they climb better? Was Pete climbing a little bit better than I was here in this climb? We're right next to each other. We're doing the same thing. I was doing better than Pete. Pete came and joined me, and then we got to cloud base or whatever and kept snaking around while we waited for Rick. There's a lot of things that happen throughout the day, but you want to think back to those key decisions and keep notes, keep track, write them down somewhere. You can use this Avery site and write all your notes and thoughts down in the bottom portion. I kind of put a couple of things that were going on there. So just kind of a neat place to keep everything. Comments, Pete?
No, I think it covers it. The other thing is the day was pretty blue. There wasn't many clouds. And you made a good choice after Rick and I weren't working, and you committed to a different idea. And we finally got to Yola. But it wasn't clear what to do when we turned around, besides not landing off field.
Yeah. Cool. So the other one is you can do this in a couple different ways too. So I did this actually earlier today on the groups site. So if you don't have the ability to go fly a day potentially, what's really nice is the forum, right? I went back and found a forum post March 12th through the 13th. And Kempton started a big wave talk this day. They were talking out, a number of days ahead of time. So that was on March 7th for the 12th. And there was a lot of conversation that went in. And you can go back through and read all this conversation. It was really good about what was going to happen, what the day did. And then eventually, a few days later, Kempton wrote a post-flight analysis, which was pretty nice. And a lot of people commented on what happened. Drew and Kempton actually landed out, and then they flew the next day. Some other people chimed in on what they did. But if you were able to forecast that day, but were not able to fly it, you can still gain from it by going out and looking, what did people forecast? What did you forecast? What did someone see? What did you see? And what was done? So we can grab that from the RASP. We can also grab it from OLC. So OLC is a great way you can collect everyone's flights. Everyone posts, they want to show what they're doing. So I went through and I got all the flights from March 12th. Rami, Kempton, Jim, Alex, John, Luke, Steve, Alfred, and Luca. I downloaded all these. You go over to the little information button. It comes up. You click their little IGC file, and it downloads their IGC file for you. You can see their flight. You could look at them individually, or you can go throw them up on CU or on this Avery page, which cool, is you go and create your own scene. I click this create your scene button. You drag and drop all your flight traces you want. So I can select, I changed all the names of everybody. And, I select and add all of them. Open. And then I can change their names or whatever I want them to appear on screen and create the scene. It's going to give me an option to title it and give some other options. But when all is said and done, you have this flight here with 9 individuals on there. You can share the link, you can post it. I actually posted this exact link to the bottom of the forum page. And you can go look at what every single person in that flight did on that day and go see where did they get a climb? Where did you get a climb? You know, Kempton's not, you can see what Kempton did as a gee whiz thing. But I would follow someone, you know, I can look at what the 24 did and where he got into the wave. I can look at where Pete got into the wave, or not Pete, I don't think Pete flew. But you can see where are they picking it up? Where was it stronger? Where was it weaker? Where did they make the big transitions all the way throughout the day? And you can see every single trace of the day and kind of see where was everyone getting their climb, and a nice little Google Maps overlay. So it's just a nice way to look at it. You can also do the same thing by saving it in the file and get it on CU and upload it in CU. But especially for the wave, it's a little hard to see. You can't drag around quite as well. But for people who want to use CU, it's another good one. And CU is going to give you a lot of statistics and data that you can go look in, multiple different layers, multiple different stats from different individuals that you can look through to go grab. So those are kind of some of the things that I'm looking at as far as post-fight analysis goes. Last but not least, lessons learned. So at the end of the day, we go through and we've done the post-fight analysis. We've looked at our flight. You know, the big picture is, did I meet my goal? Did I do what I set out to do? Right? If I did, awesome. If I didn't, why not? What changed? Did I change my goal mid-flight? Did the forecast not hold? Did I not make good decisions through the flight? Maybe there's a big turning point and I made an aggressive decision when I should have made a more reserved decision. Maybe I didn't shift gears. What was going on there? And talking to other people about what they did is huge, right? At the end of the day. Where were those major decision points through the day and how many of them were successful, right? Was I thinking right? Did the day do what I thought it was going to do over my 10-minute goal, the 30-minute goal, the hour, not goal, but progression? Did it do what it was supposed to do or what I thought it was going to do? What can I improve on? Did I do a good job thermaling? Could I have cored sooner? Was I making the decision to leave at the top of the thermal at the right time? Was I picking good lines? Was I flying good speeds? You know, and ultimately always leave on a positive note. Every single flight is positive, right? No matter what you did, you learn from it. So what did I do well at the end of the day? Maybe I just greased on the landing. Maybe I didn't get any soaring, but I greased the landing. Maybe I had a really good takeoff and tow. Maybe I made a really good, you know, maybe I was thermaling really, really well, but was not, once I got to the thermal, was not making the best decisions getting to them. You know, go through those. And what will I do next time? What can I improve on? And take notes, write them down. Whether you're making notations in your logbook, whether you have a little journal that you think back to flights, but write these things down or keep a good record of them is really important. Lastly, just wrapping up here with all of it, is we just got through all this and where can I go get more knowledge, right? I made it through the flight and now I want to go learn more. YouTube is a great resource. I use YouTube for everything from fixing my dryer to learning about soaring. G Dale has a lot of really good stuff out there on YouTube. Pete's talked a lot about him, but G Dale has some really cool information. I'm starting to put more stuff up on YouTube as I find videos. I'm posting them on a page. I'm hoping in the next few months to put together a little William Soaring page, all the information we can, but that's where you're going to go find that video on the Barrio if you like it. Stefan Langer, some of these big names in soaring have really interesting stuff to say about soaring. So, you know, the more people you listen to, the more people you talk to, the more these things are going to make sense when you're in the air. And you hear about Pete talking about the sunny windward side. And the next time you're up there, you go, oh, hey, I remember Pete said that and it worked. All these things come up. All of GDL's soaring engine books are great. There's tons of reading material out there. For local knowledge, come out and take a lesson, and we can go fly the 32 together. We can go scrap around in the 21 together. We can go put a task together. Go fly with someone in the Williams staff, or if you want that ClearNav training, we have it on the simulator in the office, so we can do ClearNav based, instrument training. Wings and Wheels has their blog and their site, and Soaring the Skies podcast is a great podcast they put out every week and talk to very, very smart people about different things they've done throughout their soaring career, and is a great resource. And if you ever need any more, feel free to get in contact with me. I can give you any length of contact, any resource you need, we can find for you. Well, that wraps it up for me. And I'd like to thank everybody for participating. And I'd like to open it up to any final questions or thoughts.
So Leon has a question on messaging. Hang on.
Yeah. Hold on.
Go ahead, Leon. Go. Leon?
You're muted, Leon.
Okay, here you can hear me now.
Yep.
Okay, so I'm a beginner, right, by any stretch of the imagination, and I watched with amazement as you guys seem to know where to fly. But I've been up enough in the air that it ain't obvious, especially if there are few or no clouds, just what choices you make. So I'm guessing, and maybe I'm being unfair, that you guys have flown this area so many times that there are geographic points that you see, that you recognize, that you cue in on, maybe like a tree farm, but many more that aren't marked, that give you that confidence to go to that next point. And that the only way I'm going to be able to do that is to slowly and incrementally learn those magic points. Am I being naive?
No, there's some truth to that. There's definitely the local hotspots. There's places that we know we're going to get up on Let's Lake. Generally speaking, we think we're going to get up on Let's Lake. We think we're going to get up on the switchbacks behind St. John, in between Sheet Iron and Black Butte. We think we're going to get up on Black Butte Ridge. We have an idea of where the convergence generally flows. But mostly we fly from mountain peak to mountain peak. Where is the highest, hottest rock? And it does really simplistically boil back to all the elements are, where's the wind coming from? And where's the hottest peak of a mountain? Where's that next thermal coming from? So whether we see a cloud or we're looking out in the distance and just going, I think that's going to work. I will let you on a secret. Pete is often more wrong than I am when it comes to these things, but we both miss them fairly often. I'm just kidding.
So the other part of this, Leon, is everything Ben said is true. However, the other way to look at it is, why is this place working? In general, it's facing the sun and it's facing the wind. And it's usually fairly bare, like not a lot of trees. If you start thinking about it that way, I mean, there are all the places that we know should work. And what happens is you get the confidence to go, I know these places should work. And if these places don't work, I'm going to bail off, go to Willows, or I'm going to go home. The other thing is having the confidence that if you get a thermal, no matter what flavor it is, a broken 1 knot, half knot thermal, or a 10 knot thermal, that you know you have the confidence to know what to do with it. And that's the other big thing that helps. And, the big advantage we have now over the last 15 years is we have these fabulous 20-meter two-place gliders. And, I would recommend flying once or twice a year with Ben to work on your general skills. That helps too. The other thing that helps is just flying a lot. So you get the confidence that all this works. And it doesn't always work, by the way. It really doesn't. So.
And I think that's a really big point, Leon, is like with any of this, usually, you see us go right to, or you see the flight track and it looks like we go right to a point. We don't, we're not going, I know that rock's going to work. We go, I think this is going to work. 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 Oh, that didn't work. Okay, let's go land out. But we always, we have an idea based on either a cloud or a rock. We're just going down the natural progression of this hot surface should work. And if it doesn't, then what's plan B? What's plan C? And we don't just go, okay, that didn't work, go home, right? So kind of if you have this path, you're trying to work your way down. And then also exactly what Pete said is all the generators are about the same, right? So anytime you get in any sort of lift, look down and figure out, first get into the lift, get in, stay in. But once you're established, why is where I am working right now? Sometimes we don't know. We just go, okay, thank you. I'm going to accept it, soaring gods, and we'll go up. But other times we go, why is this specific place working right now? And if you start to learn why that one's working, you'll realize the next one has very similar features.
I think, to Leon's point, I think some of it has to do with, obviously it's familiarity. Because if you aren't familiar, then you're going to be more concerned about where you're going and what you might get yourself into, especially, obviously Pete has more experience, so he's a little less concerned than somebody new. Pete knows better what his glide looks at certain altitudes and stuff like that, compared to, let's say, Leon. But also, I think if you know you can stay up in a thermal, then you need to be looking around when you're like you release at a tree farm or whatever in that area, in that vicinity. You have a thermal, and that thermal is probably like the tree farm one pretty much works all day. That vicinity, you're going to, assuming the day doesn't change drastically, you're going to have a pretty good idea that if I come back here, I'm going to have a thermal, most likely. Maybe not in exactly the same spot, but in the same vicinity. And if you then start spelunking on your own, saying, oh, Pete said that, look for bald spots. Okay, I see a bald spot. I can get there and probably lose only 1,000 feet. And I'm at, 8,000 or something. Then I'm safe to go there, find out if it works. And if it doesn't, I can come back and stay up and do the same things somewhere else. It takes there has to be some experimentation and spelunking, as I said, involved here. It's not a guaranteed, I'm going to go somewhere. Pete said a bald spot works, but I just got to the bald spot and it's not working. Well, if you want to and out to keep you up, if you want to keep experimenting rather than running home just because that one spot didn't work out, I think you need to have sort of a home base that will keep you up and let you keep looking around and finding out for yourself, hey, that just worked. Now I'm 5 miles up the road. I'm halfway between snow and tree farm, whatever. Maybe I'm on the side of snow or something like that. I made it. I can always go back. I know what I lost getting to where I got to. The side of snow, I just lost 2,000 feet, let's say. So if I go back, I should be able to get back up, and I know that I'm going to lose, no guarantees, but I'm probably only going to lose that same 2,000 feet, let's say. So then now I'm on snow. Well, now I can try another one. Maybe I can get to St. John's doing the exact same thing. That, it's the stepping stone of experimenting for yourself and the verification of what Ben and Pete and, all these other people are saying. That is what kind of gives you the confidence to do what you're trying to do. I don't know if that helped or not, but
yeah, that's a good point. Good point.
And that same point is a lot of the reason, like, we drew up some of those tasks that we did. You look at the task like first time off goat or the Goat Mountain pinball, and you can do that whole task on one climb off Snow Mountain. If you can get on top of snow, you got to get, two climbs. You got to get up on goat and then get over to snow. You get up to snow at 10,000 feet. You can go out to Sheet Iron and back, and then over to St. John and back. and then out to Goat and back. And each time you go out, you might hit it at St. John. And then but you always have this common ground of, I'm going to go out, but give myself enough room to return. And if you go out and hit that thermal, now you have your new home base. Then you go out one more thermal and can come back. And then out one more thermal can come back. And that's how you trickle out and away. And eventually you don't think about the comeback because you know the next one's going to work, the next one's going to work, the next one's going to work as you build that confidence.
And the other thing, adding to all this, Leon, is that sometimes things cycle. You know, Ben could go through a place and talk about how awesome it was, and I go there 3 minutes later, and it's like, dude, what are you talking about? So the key is to have 3 or 4 choices in mind, or like Andy's saying, like, hey, I'm going to make sure I can always get back to tree farm to get back up. And back to Ben's point, you slowly but surely expand your bubble and your search, and you get the confidence it all works. But the fundamental thing is you got to be totally confident with build a, you know, the soaring world gives you. Because if you're not, all this is moot. It doesn't matter.
Yeah, absolutely.
So on the chat line, somebody's asking, will you post a link to the presentation?
Yeah, I'll, this one, Pete's and Kempton's, I'm hoping to get up in YouTube in the next little bit. And then Dennis didn't want to keep his up there, so I might find somewhere else to post it. He said he can keep it with the VSA, but he doesn't want his face out in the world. But I'm just kidding. We'll get a couple of them posted up here relatively shortly.
Nothing else on the chat line, Ben. Any other questions from the audience?
Yeah. This is Kevin.
Hey, Kevin.
And I family commitment earlier, so I missed the beginning of this, but I want to watch the whole. You'll post a link for the recording.
Yeah, I'll post the link to the recording for the recording.
Excellent. Thank you.
Awesome. Yep. All right. Well, I'd like to thank everybody for joining in, and you know, we are looking at doing something, kind of start getting into the barbecue season, maybe end of April, beginning of May out here. And also just kind of coming up, and, you know, we'll see if it, we're trying to make it happen, but kind of first couple weeks in June or middle of July, we might be looking at trying to set up a safari from a VSA standpoint, trying to go up to Montague for a week or so. So we are trying to kind of push out and do a couple of things there. You know, it should, hopefully everyone got something from here, and hopefully we see everybody out here at Williams in the next, you know, maybe Monday. Otherwise, in the next couple of weeks, it looks like maybe we'll get some frontal passage through and get some good soaring.
Yeah.
So Ben, one last question.
Mm-hmm.
What was the bonus task today?
If you can go down, I would say, can you cross the Delta? But I think the bigger question is, can you get back from the Delta?
Just joking.
Yeah.
I think the bigger question is, can you get a tow today?
Can you get a tow today? Yeah.
Yeah, that's the question.
We were doing ground launches from a tethered point. All right. Well, thanks everybody. And I hope everyone has a great rest of your weekend.
Thanks, Ben.
Thanks, Ben.
Thanks, Ben. Thanks, Pete.
Thank you, Ben.
Well, thanks everybody for sticking in with me for that whole hour and a half. Hope you liked and enjoyed the video. If you'd like to see more, or like some pointed videos, please comment, subscribe. Like I said, we'll be having many more training videos coming out over the next few months. So stay tuned.